And the podcast will begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, great pleasure, great honor. Big round of applause. Mr. Drew Hester.
Yay! Yay!
Finally good to have you here.
Thank you for having me, bud.
Of course, shout out to Jonathan De La Paz for making this happen.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I know, right? I mean,
Yes.
I sense the reluctance when you said thank you.
I didn't know whether to look at him since he's sitting right behind me. He's like, do I look at Jonathan or not? No. Okay.
So, Drew, no script, no nothing. We'll talk about everything you want to talk about. But most importantly, let's go to the meats and potatoes. What have you done for this industry that makes you so inspirational? Are you an attorney? Are you a basketball player? What are you?
An easy, quick question. What makes me inspirational? Gosh. That's a good question.
Right?
I don't know. Yeah. You know what? I guess I would say I hope, because since I'm a drummer and I'm in a band, that, you know, music has changed some people's lives for the better. And maybe they went to a concert and, who knows, got married, decided to heard a song, heard some lyrics, and decided to change something. And that's the part of music, you know, strictly in that lane. And then other things, yeah, it's been cool to be able to travel the world and meet people and talk to people and hear different lanes of information and stuff that, you know, you might think is you wouldn't talk about in the U.S. or whatever, you know. So, I mean, just to be able to have information and all that stuff, I think it makes me a better person and helps me talk to other people in a more informed way. I don't know.
You know what?
I don't know if that was inspirational, though.
It was, because you being here, I kid you not, no BS, you being here, and everybody in this room will attest to this, is an inspiration in and of itself.
Ah, well.
Because you didn't have to be here, but
Well.
here
You're
you
too
are.
nice. You're too
So
nice.
that to me, by the way, is wow. And I'm pretty sure people are rereading the description because it really, I mean, your resume, the people you've been surrounded with, and your demeanor, it doesn't reflect what you've accomplished.
Yeah, well, thank you. You know what's weird is, I agree. I do not like the limelight. I think I always wanted to be a drummer because you're wrapped around something. People aren't really looking. You're in the back row, you know, guitar, bass player, singer, all those people are in the front row. They're next to the audience. You're in the back. Not a lot of people looking at you, hopefully. That's the way I always felt. I like that security of not being seen. And I think I've taken that with me my whole career because I love coming off stage and, you know, walking past and nobody's really, the lead singer is like, autograph picture, guitar, hey, and me just like straight to the bus. Nobody's calling my name. Sometimes it's nice. Don't get me wrong. Who doesn't want to be asked for the autograph? But you know what I'm saying? I've always enjoyed like, hey, I'm cool. We're good. I love playing music with all the people I played with. I'm honored and will treasure that the rest of my life. But yeah, I think I like being low key, humble. I think that just keeps your life simple.
You know what? I'm actually teary eyed because while you were talking, while you were saying those stuff in my head, I'm like, and he has a Grammy.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know.
Like something that all of us can only pray for and wish for. And here you are, humble and all, and I'm like, this gentleman has a. How many do you have?
No, just two with the Foo Fighters.
Just two. Let's talk about the Foo Fighters, Mr. Solo on the Triangle.
Yes.
How did that gig happen?
Well, Taylor, the drummer, we've known each other since like first grade. We grew up next to each other and literally on the same street. He was maybe 10 houses down from me. And so we both played drums. And he was a monster, like right out of the gate. Like he's 4 years younger than I am.
So wait, two drum sets in one neighborhood?
Yeah, we could hear each other. So, but right. I always like soft rock, so I listen to like,
Steely Dan.
Steely Dan, even Fleetwood Mac. Like I love Toto. I love Bob Marley. I love reggae music. Really love reggae music. I love like Christopher Cross, all that stuff. Just the real pop stuff.
Yeah,
I was huge. And Taylor loved like Van Halen, Police,
Rush.
Queen, Rush, a little more hard rock stuff. And so he would always be playing that. I'd always be playing like like Toto.
Did you guys go to the same school? No.
Yeah. Went to the same school. So, but yeah. So he was just, that's how we knew each other. And then I had played percussion pretty much on almost every album, like starting at the One by One album. So I played a little bit of percussion on there. And I'm not listed on every album, but I've played on a lot of records, but I didn't really care. Those guys are the best in the world. And
did you produce anything for them?
No. I mixed some stuff, but I produced Taylor's first solo album and kind of helped on the second one. But yeah, so they just called, and Dave said in whatever year that was, we'd all known each other, and I'd played some percussion on the record.
Wait, don't cookie cutter the whole story. The reason why I'm interested is because we were that relationship you had with Taylor, and you had no idea where Taylor was going to go to, right? But friendship is where it starts. That's your first.
Yeah, I bypassed that whole scenario where he died, literally.
I know.
So they restarted him 2 or 3 times, in that period of 6 weeks. I'm going to get emotional. So yeah, we were friends growing up, and then we didn't see each other for a long time. Both of us graduated high school. I was 4 years older. We went our separate ways, and then I would see him in Orange County every so often. And then he told me one day that he was auditioning for this new girl out of Canada, Alanis Morissette. He was working at the record store there, at the music store, and I would stop in and say hi. And so he was going to the audition that night. He got the gig. It was great. And
Alanis was still up and coming, or
yeah,
Jagged
she was
Little?
nobody. She was in Canada, and she was just, the record hadn't even come out yet. So he auditioned for her and got that, and then the record came out, Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah.
So then I was in Burbank driving one day. This may be a long time after that. He had been in the Foo Fighters now, and we weren't really talking that much. And
you guys were not neighbors anymore?
No, weren't neighbors. He had moved to LA. I'd moved to LA, but totally different lives. And I'm driving my car down the street, and this guy jumps in front, like runs across the street. I'm like, oh! I stopped, and I'm like, it was Taylor. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? He's like, Drew, oh my gosh. So we hadn't seen each other in 6-7 years probably. So maybe longer. And so we talked, changed numbers, started hanging out. And then
he was with the Foo.
He was with the Foo Fighters. And then he had the episode where he
OD'd
in London. And he came back home, and he called me. He said, hey, look, I need a sober friend. I want to hang out. Every day I want to hang out. I'm like, let's do it.
Did you become his accountability buddy?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I don't like to talk too much sobriety stuff, but I was his friend that was sober. So we literally hung out every day for like a couple of years. Like, I wasn't with, I didn't have a wife or anything. Yeah, no, I was single, and we were both single, and we just made music every day, and all these different people would come to his house, and we'd make music and record stuff. And
so in other words, this was like rekindling childhood friendship.
Yeah. And he really just wanted to write, and I'm an engineer, so like I can record all this, and so it was really cool. And that's how it happened. And then when Dave wanted to do an acoustic tour, it came up that, hey, why don't you come play some percussion? You've played some percussion on the albums already, and
what was it like being invited to play percussions on the album? By this time, Foo Fighters was more or less the #1 rock band already. So. Yeah,
I never think about it like that. I just don't. They're my friends, and I said, like, if you said, hey, Drew, come over and play something, I'm like, sure, I'll be over in a second.
You guys heard that, right? Yeah. Drew already played on the drum kit, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I need more practice. But, so I just, at first, I didn't really want to do it, tell you the truth. I told Taylor that I was like, hey, I didn't understand what it was. Because I'm like, dude, I don't know if you need a percussionist in the Foo Fighters. Like, it's like, no. Like, what do I do? Like, shake tambourine in the background? Like, he's like, no, it's going to be unplugged. And so I said, I would be cool. Could I play like like vibraphone, like play a chordal instrument and like a timpani and like some toms and like some cool stuff. He's like, of course. So they were so supportive. Dave was supportive. All of them were. They're just. I can't say enough about how good those guys are. But that's what it was. So I played vibraphone, timpani, a floor tom, and then just some hand percussion, and just played kind of drums, vibraphone thing, and it was amazing. It was
so what was it like playing with two other drummers?
Well, you know, Taylor's got the worst of it. I mean, he's in that band playing for Dave. It's just I can't imagine. And he's I swear I think he's the only guy in the world that can do it, because I could never take the pressure of doing that.
Yeah.
And Taylor's good enough, you know, that I don't know. He knows how to deal with it, and he can do things that we always talk about this. I talked to Taylor the other day about, you know, him and Dave are just different drummers. Dave's more of a like just kind of a square guy. And Taylor's much more roundish and kind of like, you know, swings a little bit and like
flamboyant also.
Yeah, and just different. But they're both amazing. And it was both just to be near them and watch what they do, and watch Dave get on drums sometimes at sound check and come up with ideas and see how his brain works. Because he's very like a songwriter. He really writes parts, you know, for drums.
Who would tell you what to do? Would it be Dave? Would it be Taylor, or none of them?
Both.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Never, but never in that kind of way. You know, I mean, I guess, yeah. Dave probably said, "Don't do that." I was like, okay. One time I played two tambourines because I thought it wasn't loud enough, and Dave looked over and he's like, "Put the other tambourine down." I was like, sorry. Like, don't ever do that again. I'm like, sorry.
Whose idea was the triangle solo?
I don't really know. Like, the time it started off on the first, there's a unplugged thing in LA here we did at a show, and the original one was a cowbell solo because that was from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And so that was a big thing. And then Dave's like, at one point we were on tour. We've been on tour for like a couple of years, and he's like, "What's the stupidest instrument you could take a solo up there?" I'm like, probably the triangle would be the dumbest, silliest thing I could do. And so he's like, "I want you to do a solo on that." I was like, "Oh my God." And so it became that, you know? And that thing,
People loved it. People loved it a lot.
Bro, I'm telling you, that thing, it bought me a house. I tell people. So, hey, you know, what can I say? That triangle tour, yeah. But that was it.
But I'd love, you know, the reason why I brought that out is because, like what you said, it bought you a house, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? People make fun of the triangle.
Oh, yeah. And, dude, I was insecure for a bit. I literally was like, you know, after a while, after we had done it for a bit, you know, I was kind of like, oh, hey, you know, I'm a drummer, man. Like, I got a gig, too. You know, I'm just not this triangle guy. And I talked to a friend of mine, a bass player, Don Boyette, who played with Michael Jackson.
Ooh,
and everybody.
shout out.
Yeah, love Don. I toured with him with Lisa Marie. But
Lisa Marie Presley, by the way, guys.
Yeah. So I called him like, oh, I'm just feeling a little weird, you know? Like, I just feel like, you know, I'm the joke guy. And he's like, dude, he goes, I'll come play that triangle right now, dude. I'll take your spot, no problem, bro.
See?
I'm out of a gig. I'll be there. I will do whatever. And it made me
open your eyes,
refocus.
yeah.
Oh, I was like, what are you complaining about? These are like my best friends. They're paying me ridiculous amount of money. I have nothing but fun. But your pride's a little wounded. But then it like all refocused me. Like, no, man, I love what I'm doing. I love playing percussion. I love playing all the stuff we're doing. I love the songs. Were amazing. And it was that moment of like clarity where a good friend can say, what are you doing, man? You're making it all about you, aren't you? I was like, yeah, check yourself, Drew. So I like really did. I was just like reset. I was like, I love all you guys. Let's keep going. So,
how long were you with the Foo?
2005 to 2008, end of December 2008. Yeah.
And then when you parted ways, what was the reason?
Dave wanted a break.
Okay.
Like we had literally gone from 2005, 6 to straight through, done 2 albums, tours, back to back.
Wow.
And Dave was exhausted. And he's like, I want a break. And that's when he went and did the Crooked Vultures thing. And they all kind of like, everybody was like, let's all leave.
Doing their own thing.
And literally that was December. We went home for Christmas. And then January, like 3rd or 4th, Tris called for Chicago.
Let's talk about that. Because I remember growing up, we're practically not far in age.
Right.
And it's so funny. Like I would I would write lyrics to my little girlfriends and actually say, "You're the meaning in my life. You're the inspiration. You bring feelings to my life." I kid you not.
Wow, he's so good.
Imagine in the Philippines, I was like, "Dear Melissa, you're the meaning in my life."
He loves me.
But what was, because you and I practically grew up with Chicago.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What was it like getting the call for you to do the gig?
I don't know. That was crazy because Tris is like my idol.
Tristan Bowden.
Shout
out, Tris.
Tris, like, one of the best, man. One of the best, and probably one of the most underrated guys, you know. But I mean, all the songs he played on with Kenny Loggins,
yes,
and This Is It, and all that stuff. And so when he called and said, "Hey, man,"
how'd you guys? How'd you guys know each other?
So I met him when I was in like a sophomore in high school. MTV was they broadcast on MTV. This is like 1985. They said, "Hey, we're gonna broadcast live from Laguna Beach on July 4th." And Laguna Beach is a town of like 20,000 people, and everybody's like, "Where? Whose house is this at?" Sure enough, my girlfriend at the time, whatever, her best friend's dad was a clothing designer. It was at his house, and she's like, "You want to come to the party?" I was like, "Yeah."
Wow.
So we went there, and there's David Lee Roth and Mark Goodman, the original VJ with the curly hair and the ponytail, Mr. Grace Jones, and who else was there?
And you were
Rick James.
You were a high school kid.
I was a sophomore.
Oh my God.
Totally out of my mind. And they just say, "That's the guy, Tristan Bowden. He plays for Kenny Loggins." I was like, wow. And he sat in with this band and he played drums, dude. And it was literally like a religious experience. It was like, his groove was so good, so solid, and so perfect, man. I just literally in that moment, I'm like, I want to do that right there.
Wait.
I want to be just like him.
Okay, so you've been playing drums since you were little.
Yep.
But when you saw Tristan Bowden, all of a sudden definition came into.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, I played drums, you know, and like, yeah, it was cool, great, awesome. I like playing drums. But when I saw him at that moment, I was like,
Did you talk to him at that?
I did, and he was the nicest person ever. And I think literally he shaped the way I talk to people about music and who I am as a person, like really about music, because he was so humble and so sweet that at that party he said, "Hey man," we went outside and we sat down on the curb because the party was just a scene, man. And so we talked and talked and talked for like 20 minutes, and he told me everything. It was like, just to me, like, and he's like, "Hey man, here's my number. You call me anytime. You come up to LA, we'll get lunch, we'll hang out." I was like, okay. And sure enough, I called him and like, he's, "I'll be back in 6 months from the Kenny Loggins tour. You call me." And I did. And I went up and met him and we became friends and we had lunch, and it's like, we just started talking from there on out.
You know what? I believe you. You know why? Because that's the same thing you did to me.
We just started talking.
Yeah. Jonathan got us together.
Jonathan, don't ever do that again.
Right? And you were like, "Yeah, get my number, man."
Yeah. Why not? Dude, why not?
Right?
How stupid.
Right?
People, like, you know, I mean, if I guess if your life is that busy and you just don't want people to talk to you or anything, like, hey, it's all good. Not for me.
Now, wow. Now, what made you go up to him? See, because I'll tell you why. Like
I can't say that on here.
I know. Oh, sorry. No. Without.
Very.
Okay.
That's how I got this.
Okay. No. The reason.
A lot of confidence in that moment. I got this.
No. The reason why I ask is because a lot of people miss opportunities because they get in the way of themselves, right?
Right. And yeah, so I don't know. I can't say that because that'd be very bad. But in that moment, I decided to. But you know, and I am a very shy person. I know it doesn't seem like as we're talking or whatever, but really, when I'm around people like that, I rarely go introduce myself. Like, "Hey man, just want to say love your playing." And no, I hate small talk. I don't like anything fake. You know, and you
yeah.
can see I get pretty emotional when I talk just because, I mean, I feel like,
course,
hey, I
of
feel
course.
this is real. So to like talk about the weather and what kind of guitar are you playing?
It's like,
Man, I love your drums. Oh, is that the New Zildjian symbol? Like, it's fun and I don't mind it, but for a long period of time, I can't.
Yeah.
I start to
There
falter.
there has to be substance.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so after the tour with after Tris did the tour with Kenny Loggins,
Yep.
he called you, you called him.
I called him.
So you really made the point to call him.
I made so back then there's no cell phones.
No.
I called him. I drive from Laguna Beach all the way to LA off of a Prairie Avenue, right off the 405.
Yeah.
He lived right there. I get there. He's like, just call from a payphone across the street. I'm like, okay. Oh no. And I knocked on his door. That's what happened. I knock on his door. Nobody answers. I'm like, and I've driven like.
And you were still a sophomore or junior?
I was like junior maybe at this point. Like, nothing. Like nobody's home. I'm like, this is weird. So I drive across the street to the 7-Eleven. I get on the payphone, dial, just rings and rings. I'm like, huh. I just talked to him like yesterday. He said to come up like, at 11 a.m. Hang up the phone. I don't know what to do. And I called again one more time, put in, and you remember back then, if the answering machine came on, it hit your quarter. You're like, ah.
Yeah.
So I found another quarter, put it in, and like, Tris, it's Drew. I'm here. I guess maybe you got busy or something. I gotta head down. Call me sometime. I was getting ready to leave, and I see across the street him coming out from his house, walking out, just waking up.
Oh.
And he's like, hey. I'm like, hey. So we went in, and he's like, hold on, let me get dressed. We'll go get some food. And he got up, and he went and got food with me, and we just talked and talked and talked. And he's just an amazing person.
Mentor?
Oh.
Yeah?
Hell yeah. Big time mentor, just in terms of playing, in terms of attitude, in terms of everything. Yep.
Is he the reason why you actually took the vocational of taking drums as your? Okay.
For sure. Him by itself. There's no doubt in my mind. If I wouldn't have seen him in that moment, in that backyard for real, I mean, it was like
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where I was just like, that's it. They like, and I never looked back, and I just kept going and going and going, and it was. Well, whatever. It was hard for me because he was such a good drummer and so like he could play anything. I could be like all that Latin music. He could he was just so well versed. And I just, I was going to music school and I was probably better at it back then. But for me, I've always been insecure. It's like, I just play 2 and 4. I'm a very simple drummer. At least that's the way I feel. And I was always concerned about time. Like Jeff Porcaro is probably like my favorite drummer of all time.
Ditto.
So I was always real concerned about time and like just even sitting on your kid a second ago, like I hear myself play like that. I'm like, oh.
You played well, by the way.
No, well, thank you. That's not. But I feel like inside very insecure, because we just like as I told you, like, man, with COVID, I haven't played much, and I get on like, this is not good. But with Tris, going back to Tris.
So you got the call.
I got the call.
Isn't it? Okay. After Foo, no plan.
Yep.
It could have been anybody. That's my point.
Well, here's the crazy thing. So when he makes a call, he's like, "Hey, Drew, it's Tris. I've lung cancer." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" It's gonna be okay. But I need like probably like a year off. Like it's gonna take some time. I called Greg Bisonet. He's busy. He can't do it. So I'm calling you. I was just like, and to me, that was more exciting than anything. That the fact that Greg Bisonet went first and somehow I popped into his mind next. I was like, oh, that's a win. I'm taking that. I'm fine to go behind second to Greg Bisonet because he's a monster. I was like, cool, Tris. What do you need? Yeah, so he's like, yeah, you got it, dude. You're gonna do this thing. And
that's not an audition gig. That's a recommendation gig.
Yeah,
right?
You're doing the job. You're gonna do it. I know you can do it. And I was like, and I was freaked out because he takes a huge drum solo, double bass drum. I don't play double bass drum. And the only thing I told the band once I talked to him was like, I will do no drum solo. Sorry, I don't do them. I don't like them. I don't want to do one. And if you want to get another drummer, totally fine by me. But I'm serious about that part. Like, no, we're cool with it. I'm like, great.
Okay.
So
hold on. I like how you delivered it. And again, to people watching, when you said, I'm not going to do a drum solo, when you were setting your boundaries, what was going through your head? Was it the, I'll put quotation marks, was it the insecure Drew going, I hope they allow me not to do a drum solo because I really want the gig? Or was it the confident Drew going, you know what, I really won't do the gig if they ask me to do a drum solo?
a little bit of both, honestly. I mean, when you say that, I like listen to you say that, and it's like, it is some of both of that. There was definitely some confidence in like, hey, I see his drum solo. I see what he does. I know what people are going to be expecting. I don't really do that. You know, I can cover all his parts. I can make some cool things happen. Sure, I can take some solos within the band, but I don't want the whole band to leave the stage for 10 minutes and me sitting out there by myself. I will not do that. And I think I get it from Jeff too, like from Picaro. He was a real, you know.
He had
he had his moments, but he nobody ever left the stage. Ooh, it's Jeff time. He was like, screw you. No. I'm here for the song, just like you're here for the song. You know, do you want to do a guitar solo thing? But well, maybe for guitar. But for they might have, yeah, of course. 10 minutes by myself. Maybe that's a bad example. Let's pick background singer. Background singer. Would you like to go for 10 minutes by yourself? What, by myself? Yeah. So that's so yeah. I just I talked to Robert Lamb, and he was cool. He's like, no, we're good, and I was like, great. And then I'm good. And I literally, Tris sent me a board tape, like they FedEx some CDs of the show the few nights before that. And I charted out everything. Like the ballet, which was like a 13-minute long song, dude. It was like, I don't know, probably 8 pages. And it was like, and I literally.
You wrote your own.
I notated every fill, like to the note. To like, he played this. And that's a lot of like. Yeah. And it's not like, pat, boom, Debbie,
that's boom. A lot of grapes.
It's, dude. It took me like 2 weeks of just writing, but the good thing was I knew from music school, hey, if you listen and you write it, I'm gonna have to listen to this 80 times and write every note and rewind. Yeah. Write it. What does he do? Play that. Hold on. Kick. Yeah. And by doing that, you're subconsciously already like inputting it. So when I got on the drum set, I'm like, I wrote it all. I know what he's doing. Now I just have to like make sure my muscle memory is going to do what he wanted to do. And then I kind of made it my own. And I tried to go back and take some of Danny's stuff that Tris had kind of morphed into his own. And I morphed some back to Danny, some of Tris, some of me. And I just tried to play it as best I could.
Did they pretty much let you do whatever it is that you...
Pretty much, the one
except
thing
for the cues, right?
Yeah, for Make Me Smile, I went back to Danny's thing because Tris would play 2 and 4 from it, and Danny would kind of do the accents like and so I kind of added that back in, kind of from the original. But what Tris had on there was already great, and they were already used to it, So I pretty much played what he did, but it was awesome, man. I mean, and to go with Chicago.
It's funny and weird because when he came back, both of you started doing solos.
Yeah. Well, he loves solos, and I was like, oh, okay. So we worked out that solo, which we came up with at my house. And,
but then again, I mean, okay, so gig with Foo Fighters percussion,
right,
and then Chicago drums. But when Tris came back,
right,
they didn't kick you out. You're staying, but you're playing percussion.
Yeah. Well, that's what they said. They said, hey, can we pay you a retainer for drums while he's here? I was like, yeah, you can. And I went back to the hotel that night. And the next day I'm thinking like, wait, so if Tris has an issue on stage, like breathing with his lungs coming back, I'm in LA, you're in Denver. What are you going to do in that moment on stage? Like, what, you're going to fly me out the next day? Well, the show's already over. He's already, he's maybe already had a little breathing problem. So I went back to the band. I'm like, look, why don't I play percussion for a few months, while he gets acclimated to playing again. And then when he feels good and confident, I can bail out, and I'll just be here because that way, if I'm playing percussion, he feels like I'm a little winded. We just like, dun, 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 end of the song. I hop up on drums. I play some drums while he gets, and that happened a couple times, and mostly just in high altitude places where he'd be like, yo, come up here. Next song you're on. So I would just go back,
Yes.
sit on, play drums.
How does it feel to actually share the?
Not good.
Really?
No, his kids. No, but anybody wants to play their kit. You know, I mean, the bass drum tension's a little different.
I know.
Snares
but
tilt a little.
Let me rephrase that.
Right.
But actually being on stage with Tris.
Oh yeah. No, it's the best ever.
Right? Full
That's
circle.
amazing.
That's like
Oh,
dude,
it's like
Lion
kid.
King.
Yeah. No, for real, bro. That was the best, you know, and I'll always be thankful to him for giving me that opportunity. You know, I mean, I was the kid, he was the star, and
Right.
I like just grew up watching him, and then to say, "Hey, kid, get up here!
Right?
I got a health issue." You know, yeah. I always be thankful, and he's a sweetheart, and I love him.
But see, your attitude played a big part because he wouldn't recommend you to the band if he knew you had an attitude.
Right. Yeah, maybe so.
Now,
You
were
know?
you conscious about your positive image? Because it wasn't really. Was it always positive?
What do you mean? In what
Like,
way?
did you have a good reputation ever since?
Yeah, I think so. Since I've been sober.
Sobriety played a big
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. I mean, when I wasn't sober before that, you know, show up late to gigs, whatever. You know, not. I never had a bad attitude, but definitely would lie to people and not be the best person in that way. You know, so being sober was changed my life and made my career. I mean, the quick story on that was just I was playing bars. You know, like I told you earlier, my
Yeah.
parents moved to Europe. My brother's
Yeah.
in the military. I was living out of my car, but this guy had an office building that he would let me shower in, and I had a answering machine. I told the story before, but and
Look,
basically
say it again.
No, I
This
know.
is a new audience.
Yeah. So he let me keep an answering machine there, and I got a DUI. I went to jail. Yeah, 2 DUIs back to back.
Oh,
And the second I got my second DUI on New Year's Eve. Like who drinks and drives on New Year's Eve? Me, because I'm an idiot.
Lord.
So the judge, I got Judge Shaw. I'll never forget her name. Her 18-year-old daughter was killed by a drunk driver about 3 or 4 months before I stood in front of her. And she said, "You know what? I don't think you're learning your lesson. You just got a DUI 6 months ago. I sentenced you to 75 days in jail for my second one."
75
Yeah. I was like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "I know guys with like 5 DUIs. I've never served time." I'm like,
not even community service.
Yeah. No, it was like, "You're going to jail." I was like,
How old were you?
I was 27.
Did it wake you up?
Yeah, changed my. So I went in there and I prayed to God. I prayed and I said, "I'll make you a deal.
I want to hear this.
If you can get me a gig in church again, because I am 17 was the last time I saw a
Yeah.
church. I was senior in high school, and once I got a senior in high school,
Got
I
it.
didn't go to church anymore. So I said, you get me a gig in church, I'll do my best to stay sober. I'll stay sober for 1 year, from January 1st to January 1st. And if my life isn't changed, and I know I'm sounding like demanding of God, but I wasn't. I was just, this was the deal I wanted to make. I said, you know, I'll do my best to stay sober and see where my life is afterwards. You know, see like, hey, you got a better life. You got a bank money in the bank. You know, maybe everything's a little bit better. And I got out of jail after 3.5 weeks, and so I only served 21 days. And I had like 45
Good
days
behavior.
good behavior, and I had like 45 days of community service. And I went to the office, and on the answering machine was a message from one of the high school kids I had played with 10 years before, Nate Peorik. And he said, "Hey, Drew, this is Nate Peorik. I don't know if you remember me, but I need a drummer down here at my church. My dad's a pastor, and I can pay you." I was like, huh? And to me in that moment, dude, that was like,
That was a sign.
that was it. That's my testimony on that one. And I was just like, yeah, let's do this.
You know
So-
what? You know what's nice about you? Instead of getting mad at the world for something you did, you took accountability and responsibility and raise your hand. The demand is a real thing with
Yeah.
God. Because when my mom died of pancreatic cancer, and I'm close to my mom, and I was, okay, fine, Lord, you took away my mom. I'm 20 years old. You took away my mom. Not cool, but I'm going to trust you.
Yeah.
A year later, he took away my dad.
Crazy.
with $100 in the bank,
Wow.
and I have 5 other siblings, instead of cussing him out,
Yeah.
God, I did the same thing you did, but mine was different. I'm like, you did this, you took away my parents, you take care of me.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a few months, Jay, no? After a few months, one of the songs I wrote became the #1 song
Wow.
in
Crazy, dude.
the Philippines and proper parts of Asia. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, we were killing it.
Yeah. Good
And
for you, man.
and so hearing your story gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. Okay. Your story getting to say that's awesome, man.
Because, it's all about, that's God.
Yeah.
Come on. Right?
Yeah, and like we said, like you were nice enough, like, hey, man, anything's out there, whatever. We don't want to talk about religion, politics, it's all good. I'm like, I don't care, and
Right.
and I really don't because I don't. It's, I have some of my best friends are atheists. I have no like.
I have
They're
no
still my
problem.
best friends,
Yeah.
dude. It's all good.
Yeah.
I love him just as much as I
Yep.
love anybody else.
Yep.
So that has nothing to do with that. And I think people can find inspiration in any shape or form. For me and for you in that moment was God, and it answered my prayer,
Yeah.
and that changed my life. And
So
I tell my other friends, like, hey, dude, it's okay. If you think that's just corny or whatever, totally cool.
Yeah.
But I respect you. You respect me.
Amen.
We're good, brother.
That's where it is,
So, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So now you did the whole church thing.
Church thing did that, yeah, and that changed my trajectory, and I was sober for a year, and within that year I had the gig with Joe Walsh, and that was really Joe Walsh was my first pro gig, and he was my longest running gig.
How'd you
from
meet
That was
the people around Joe Walsh, or was it Joe that you actually
it was my friend Jason Fries, who was a keyboard player in some of the clubs, as you know.
met? Is Jason related to Josh?
Josh, yeah, it's his brother.
Huh.
Yeah, so Josh and Jason. So yeah, so Jason plays with Green Day and all these other
Yeah.
people, and so I've been good friends with Jason. I was in his wedding. I was one of
Ever
his
since you guys were
groomsmen.
kids?
No, we met later on after high school, and we kind of knew some of the same friends in the club scene in Orange County. So we just kind of play around, and then I don't know. My roommate talked to him. They said, "Oh, the guy quit for Joe Walsh. He just started this band, and like, do you want to audition?" And I went and auditioned, and they had a few guys audition, and it was my first pro audition, like for a big name artist, freshly sober.
Wow.
And we did Walk Away, and the guy said, like, look, man, this is what's going to happen. And it was Bill and Jason. It was just a 4-piece band. It was like, if you get to play 2 songs, you got the gig. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, we've already had guys in it. He'll play 1 song. He's like, thanks for coming down. So nobody's played 2 songs. So we play, he's like, and Walk Away, the way he played it was just 4 on the floor.
Right.
So it was pretty straightforward. And so I just played it, and we finished the song, and nobody says anything. Silence. And Joe has his hands behind his back, and he's just rocking back and forth, and his head's down, and he's just thinking. His eyes are closed, and he's just like, dude, for like 20 seconds.
Longest 20 seconds of your life.
And Jason's not saying anything. Bill's on, we're all waiting. He's like, let's play another song. I was like, and Jason looks like, you got the gig, you got the gig. I was like, yes. That was it. That was my relationship with Joe, and he taught me more about music than any other person on the planet. Like, I came in there with music school, metronome, Jeff Porcaro, and Joe taught me about, like, are you listening to me right now?
Thank you.
Are you listening to what my guitar is doing? Because you're keeping that beat back there, but you're not listening to what I'm doing. Follow me right now. And dude, it used to get, man, I'd be like, yes, okay, Joe, no problem. And we had it out a couple times, but
How old were you?
27. 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it right after I got sober. So I played with him from 1998 to 2016. And,
Wow.
Yeah, he was my longest running gig.
Imagine the trust that it's like, oh my God.
And we went through like 5 different bands in those 18 years.
So Jason left.
Jason was gone within like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. But then he came back a couple times, and then we had another band, and then I double drummed with Steve Ferrone with a tour. I know. Crazy.
Average white band, Duran.
dude.
Oh my God.
Steve's a monster. So that was just crazy. And I was the MD. I'm like, okay, Steve, so this is kind of how it goes. I'm just like, and whatever. The first rehearsal we had, Steve didn't really talk to me. He was kind of like, and he's intimidating.
Did they have an accent?
Yeah.
Was it British?
Yeah. And he played, and it was two guys from the
Oh my God.
gosh, the DeLeo brothers, Dean and his
DeLeo.
brother, Dean and Robert. Thank
Yeah.
you, gosh. And so they were all buddies with Steve, and I didn't know any. I didn't know anybody.
They were older than you.
Yeah, they're all older, and I'm like the young MD. And Joe wouldn't come to rehearsals. At that point, I ran the band like the first 3 or 4 days, and I would sing the parts and play, and then I kind of knew all the arrangements, and then Joe would show up and then finish up rehearsals. And Steve was like, "Hey man, yeah." I'm just like, I'm playing with Steve Ferrone. And then after the first day, and I think he didn't know what I was going to be like, because I'm sure he's thinking, like, man, I got to play with some guy. Like, if we don't agree on the groove and I got to do a 6-month tour, this is going to be a long tour.
Right.
Like, this is not going to be fun. And literally, dude, we did Walk Away because it's 4 on the floor, super easy. And we started playing, and Steve played, and I played. And so we were playing. Maybe I told the story wrong, because I remember he winked. And so we played, and I was listening like, okay, our kick drums are together. That's good. And then I'm like, man, snares feel good. Snares feel good. I'm like, hi-hats together. We're good. And I look over at Steve, and he looked at me, and he just winked. And like from that point on, after that first day, he was like a sweetheart. And we are still friends to this day. I still talk to him all the time. So he was amazing. He's yeah. Dude, I don't know. You know, it's weird. I tell these stories and I think like, what the heck?
Right?
I don't think about it like that ever.
But, you know, that's the best part, because it's not that you don't care. It's not that you don't appreciate. No, it's just that, okay, let me just.
Yeah, I don't ever take it in for some reason. It's very strange. I just like there are those guys, and then I'm here, and I'm not like a woe is me kind of guy. Like, oh, I suck, because I don't like guys that say like, man, you sounded great. Oh, well, it sucks. Sorry, well, it sucks. I'm like, okay, you don't sound great. That's one thing Tris told me. He said, just say thank you.
Yes.
Don't make people feel like they're wrong.
Yes.
You know, when people say, man, you sounded great, say thank you. And that is a great lesson for everybody to learn. Don't tell people that you sucked or whatever. And I know I kind of went off on myself earlier, but that's because it's true. But no, but it's true. Just say thank you. And I think that's a huge lesson. So.
And you know what? You know what was nice about what you just said about Joe telling you, don't you know how to listen?
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to have that person.
We've
say
lost
that,
that, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, because music now is so, there's tracks, there's clicks.
Yes.
Even at church, we deal with this. With Jonathan, playing with Jonathan over
you
there.
You actually play with Jonathan?
Yeah, it's tough.
That sucks. I mean,
it's always lovely.
Jonathan Telepa, shout out. Okay.
Yeah. No, but I truly do feel, and that was one thing that Joe said. He's like, man, when I play, when it gets louder, it's okay to speed up. It's okay. It creates emotion. It creates energy. And when it gets really quiet, it's okay to slow down. It'll create emotion. And it was so hard for me to do that, coming from like the perfectionist, everything has to be perfect, to like, slow down. And people would be like, you know, you're slowing down. I'm like, I know. It's okay. Why does it matter? Like, just listen to the freaking song, dude. And if it gets fast, and I don't know what happened, man. Listen to Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin's on the radio every day.
Yes.
They're considered one of the greatest rock bands, whatever. Time is all over. I mean,
it's all over the place.
Bonham keeps it steady, but it's not perfect.
But see, steady is relative with...
Right. So anyways, we could talk about that all day. Yeah.
So you got So Joe Walsh, how did it end? And why did it end? Safe word, banana. Huh?
Yeah, right. You know, it ended because it was a tough time for me. We had a kid, and I wanted to be home. But also, and I have never told him this, so saying this on the microphones,
okay,
nobody's ever heard this, but it was tough for me with him. But, yeah. And I love playing with him. He was like my original guy, but it just became to the point where like we didn't communicate much anymore, and it was hard, man. I'm crying. I know. I cried on the phone when I quit, but yeah, amazingly, I quit, and he didn't want me to. He was like, dude, I'll pay you more money. Call me lit. Give it a few days. Thanks, buddy. Give it a few days. Think about it. But I knew in my heart, I was like,
okay.
Oh, you're gonna make me quit again in 3 days? Okay, I'll call you back. And sure enough, I called him back, and I said, it's still the same, dude. I don't want to.
Did you pray?
I can't do this. I wanted to.
Did you pray about it? I mean, did you?
Not really, because I didn't. I just knew. Okay. I knew that it was tough, and it was just hard. And I love him, and I still reach out to him. I haven't really heard from him, but I know he wanted me to stay, and he's an amazing human being. I mean, for one of the greatest.
Yeah, for him to make you the MD.
Yeah.
I mean, that's trust right there.
Oh, dude. And it's just as a musician, dude.
Yes.
He's one of the greatest. I mean, and like talk about music IQ. I don't know if there's anybody better in that. Like rock music IQ and putting songs together, and his craftsmanship is absolutely ridiculous.
Did you do the repertoire? Did he do the repertoire?
What do you mean? Oh, in terms of like the song that he did. Yeah, okay. I would maybe have some suggestions, but he pretty much did that.
But eventually you understood why the song sequence was the way it was.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and he, you knew what he wanted. And we got to co-write a song with him on his last album. So my roommate and I co-wrote the title track, Analog Man. Oh, so that was huge. And I think I was hurt too, because I wanted to do more of that with him, but then we never reached out again. It was and it was, I think, probably the best song on the album. Not because of me or Canada, but I think it was that shared thing synergy. Of all of us kind of putting stuff together, and we never got to do it again. And that hurt a little bit. Dang. When I started seeing him work with other people in the band that were new, it was like, oh, let's write. Yeah, let's do it. And I was like, what
happened to
I've been here almost 20 years, and I can't even it's cool, man. And at that point, I think I was just tired. I had always been the guy when everything went wrong. I was the whipping post after a while, and I would know what's wrong, but it was hard to talk to him sometimes. But he was always, I will say this, Joe always apologized for real. Like, he would pull me aside, and if it was a bad day between us, because I would get upset, it was husband and wife.
Would he say,
I just wouldn't look at him. He would be talking to me, I'd just be like, you can talk to my back of my head, bro, because I am so mad right now. And he knew it. He's like, well, you got to. And so we were like a married couple, kind of. So it was kind of hard. But he would always apologize. I would always apologize. I didn't want to quit, but I just, at the time, it was the right thing to do. And I had a baby. My wife, we had a kid, and that was a good out, too. I really did want to be with her, and I'm glad. But, of course,
But you know what's nice? Again, right? You have conviction, and once that conviction is in motion, you don't know what's in front of you, but you're trusting that fate, FATE, will take you to a better place.
Yeah, yeah.
What happened after that?
Well, yeah.
So you had your baby.
The baby was amazing.
I'm not gonna mention her name until you mention her name. Okay, just
Hannah. Yeah.
Hello, Hannah.
Yes. So Hannah, we had Hannah, and she's awesome.
She's your blessing.
She is, dude. She's, like people say, or my mom said one time, you'll know true love when you have a kid. Oh, if you don't know it before that, you'll know it then. Oh, yeah. Because now oh, yeah, take a bullet, be tortured to death.
Hell yeah.
Not a problem.
Yep.
Kid, you go home. I got to go take care of this.
Yep.
I
agree.
That type of love. So, yeah. Then that was there. And then crazy enough, Stevie calls, That was just a weird.
Stevie is Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks, who I auditioned for in 2003.
Got rejected?
When I was with Lisa Marie Presley. And
wait, hold on. No, she wasn't married to Michael Jackson anymore.
No, she was Nicolas Cage at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would come to all our rehearsals. It was a trip.
Did you meet Michael Jackson?
I did not, but Lisa and I would talk about him some in private. And, it was great. She's an amazing woman. I love her. I really do. She's
So
like a great.
you looking, playing, interacting with Lisa Marie, did it ever occur to you that this is Elvis's DNA?
Every moment.
Oh, really?
Because she looks so much like him, you know. I mean, it's and
But
that's
did she actually say, "Hey, don't be cruel"?
yeah, no, she doesn't play like that, you know, and she doesn't want to like. She's real, dude, and
Really?
yeah, she's a great woman and super talented artist.
Very down to earth. I heard
What's that?
down to earth.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. Very protected, like so you don't really get to know her for a while. She's got that wall up, you know, which I can understand. And then once we were kind of in the band and with her, and then it was like, come over to my house, let's go do this, and let's go. You know, she was awesome, and
How'd you get the gig?
Victor and Drizzo was supposed to audition, and they was like he couldn't make it, and he's like, go do this thing for me. I did it, and I had the gig, and that was that. And
Before we go forward, because people are so entitled to. I'm not saying everybody's entitled, but there's a sense of entitlement going on right now. People think they're entitled to their wall on Facebook or and all that stuff, and I get that. But auditioning humbles you, yes or no?
yes,
Can
sure.
we talk about that for a minute? What
Yeah.
goes on in an audition? It's like reality check, right?
yeah.
How does it work?
So there's obviously different ways. There's you can just get the call and get the gig, but that's not really an audition.
No.
You know, I mean, you could still lose it. We talked about guys
Yeah.
who had gigs, like did the rehearsals,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden the tour starts, and like you're out. Luckily, I've never had that happen to me, but yeah, I mean, the process is humbling. I did what's his name? Oh gosh, Creedence Clearwater, John Fogerty. Thank you. So I got once again Victor and Drizzo, amazing drummer, said, hey, I can't make this audition tomorrow. It's for John Fogerty. Can you make it? I was like, yeah, sure. So I go down, and Jack Bruno is there, who is amazing. Tina Turner, like Jack is like literally like I am a fan of his, not kind of. I love Jack. So when I saw him, so we're all at center staging. And
In Burbank.
yeah, in Burbank. So it's Jack, me, and gosh, I'm getting bad with names. The guy who played with Bruce Hornsby forever, bald guy, drummer. I forget. Anyways, darn it. Anyways, so
Research.
Yeah, research. Yeah, he
was there too, huh?
He was there too. And then they paired us up with bass players, 3 bass players and like 3 drummers, maybe 4 drummers and 4 bass players. I forget who the other drummer was. And so you just got a bass player. And so you would go in groups of 2, and you would play like 4 songs with them, and you could hear them in the room. You know, you're all sitting outside. So I'm hearing Jack Bruno play. I'm like, oh man, gosh, Jack sounds so good. It feels so good. You know, he's just playing all this stuff right. And for me, of course, you know the songs, but I didn't really know all the songs. So I go in with the bass player, and I sit down, and John Fogerty's like, hey, thanks for coming in. And like, yeah, I know this will be fun. Set up, go to play, and I'm just like, all right. Go ahead and count it off. And so, you know, you have a metronome, you've kind of written your notes, and you've taken as much notes. So I start, you know, and we start playing. And so there's like a break, and I play through the break.
Oh!
And there's like, and the bass player looks at me like, what? I was like, I don't know. I got called last night. I'm doing my best. And so we finished our 4-song set, and he's like, thank you, next. And like, you know, you're just going in and out. And the bass player was so mad at me. He's like, man, we went out to the lobby. He's like, you know, you just blew this for me, man. You just blew it for me. I'm like, I am so sorry, dude. But I don't think me not stopping that one break is gonna, like, you know, whatever. But he didn't like it. So that was humbling, and I felt bad. But on that one, it was kind of weird because I was like, take it or leave it. You know, I'm not a huge Fogerty fan. I respect him, but I didn't know his music. I recognized all the songs. You could, you know,
Yes.
everybody recognizes all the songs. But so anyways,
But
it was humbling.
It was humbling, right?
Yeah.
And okay, so you got that.
And I got passed on that. And I got passed on another gig for this like punk band. One time I went down for this
Punk band?
Yeah, it was like a kind of like Nirvana thing, not really punk, but kind of like power rock, not power. That's the wrong word. Grunge rock thing. Yeah. So I went down, and Josh Freese played on the record.
Ooh.
And Josh called. He's like, hey, Drew, I just did this album. You should come down, and I think you'd be great for this. I was like, oh, okay. Because
Wait, so Josh grew up in Laguna Beach as well?
No, he grew up in Anaheim.
Okay, so
Yep.
you guys are Orange County boys?
Yeah, Orange County boys.
Okay.
So he says, "Come down, man. You can have this gig. I'll just get you the gig. It'll be great." I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's like, "Come down to was it NRG or whatever over in North Hollywood, the recording studio." I go over, and I walk in the lobby, and the band's manager comes out, and he's like, "Oh, are you Drew?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh yeah. This isn't gonna work. I'm looking for some like a 21-year-old with like tattoos." And I was like, at the time, I was probably like 35, and I look like I do right now, just like short hair, normal looking real estate agent, you know. And he's like, "Yeah, this is not gonna work." And he literally just told, "You can leave." I'm like, "Oh, it's cool. I'll see you later, bro." That was it. I called Josh. I'm like, "They didn't want me." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude." He just looked at me and laughed.
But you don't take these things personally.
No.
Okay.
What am I gonna do?
Right. Dang.
This is what I look like, bro. This is what I do. Like, you didn't even hear me play drums, so it doesn't matter.
But then again, Drew, you had to haul your gear in the car, or
no gear hauling, which is good. But you know, at that point, being a drummer, nobody knows what it's like to be a drummer unless you're a drummer. First to arrive, last to leave.
Yeah, right.
You know? Oh, there's 4 flights of stairs. Killer. Anybody want to help me with this 80-pound hardware bag?
And they complain that they're carrying their guitars?
Yeah. Like, I got 2 basses in here. Like, cool. You take my drums, I'll take your basses.
Exactly. Any day of the year. Any day of the week, you know? So
Sorry, Jonathan.
So Lisa Marie, you got the gig.
Oh, I was going to Stevie.
Oh, Stevie, yeah.
So, rewind. No, so I did that, and during that time, Stevie called for an audition. I went, and 2003, and I practiced, and I got all the stuff together, and went there, and they're having open auditions at Center Staging again, and I go there, and I did really well. And they're like, "This is good. Come back."
Here's my question with regard to that.
Yeah.
So you know that her drummer's Mick, right? For
Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that even come to mind? Because I would probably think that, oh my God, I'm gonna sit behind Stevie, who has
who's she's used to Mick, but you know, Mick's such a because I felt like, well, this is her solo thing,
right?
It's just Fleetwood Mac, and Mick is such a creative wizard in that band, and it's hard, like Rhiannon, I still don't play correctly. You know, it is so hard. The way he plays that dude is so weird. And I've been meaning to ask. He's come to a few shows, and I really need to ask him next time. I'm like, "Let's go to the drum set real quick and play that for me, dude." I've tried to watch videos. I can't figure it out yet. It's crazy what he does.
Okay.
So
audition.
Audition. I go. The weirdest part was Sharon, who now is a dear friend. She was there, and she comes out, and she's been with Stevie since like 78 or whatever. They met in 78. And she's like, "Hey, Stevie's lost her voice, so she's not going to be able to sing. So you're just going to audition kind of, and I'll just sing the parts." I'm like, "Oh, it's totally cool. Don't even worry about it." I'm like, I love Stevie so much. I'll be able to, you know. And she looked at me so weird. She's like, "Okay." Like, she was kind of irritated. And I told her later on, once I was playing with, like, "You know, you're really weird to me that one time at the audition." And she's like, "Oh, I don't remember." I'm like, but... So I go back the next day. It's between me and Mark Schulman. Mark Schulman got the gig, and they called me, and I had to wait for like 4 or 5 days. And like, I called the tour manager like twice a day. "Is there any news? Any news?" And he's like, "Mark got the gig." I'm like, suck.
How did that feel?
That hurt because I like, out of everybody, Stevie's probably my favorite artist I've ever worked with. I love her. So, and I love her music.
In 2003, did you have were you running a business already?
No. I was a drummer.
So touring was really your bread and butter.
My whole life, yeah. Okay. So that was that. And then kind of went back to Lisa Marie, was on a break at that point, went back to Lisa Marie. And then like a few months later, we had rehearsed for like 3 weeks with Lisa Marie. Our first gig was the Anaheim House of Blues.
Yeah.
And we finished sound check. My phone rings, and it's Waddy from Stevie's band. It's like, "Hey, Mark's leaving, or something happened. I don't know what happened. You know, Stevie liked you. You know, you want to get you like the runner up. You know, you want the gig." And I was like, well, I just finished sound check. I'm starting a tour, but let me call Tris. So I called Tris, my mentor. And I'm like, "Hey, what do I do? Can I quit?" And he said, "Don't quit." He's like, "Listen to me. You get that reputation of leaving an artist like on the first day of a tour to go with a bigger artist." He's like, "You'll never live that down.
Integrity, no?
You will. That will go with you." Yeah. He's like, "I understand. It's hard. it's less money. It's with an artist that's not well known and all that stuff. But he's like, Drew, you do that. Believe me, your reputation, that is not easy to erase. And that will be with you forever. It doesn't matter who the artist is. Oh, it's big name, little name. You don't do that.
God bless Tris.
So, yeah, and so I had to call Waddy back. One of the hardest phone calls, literally, like, turn down Stevie Nicks. Like, hey, yeah, I can't do it. He's like, okay.
Did you say we're even? No,
Yeah. Yeah, so that was that. And then, amazingly enough, here, Taylor, I'll tell the story. Taylor was at Music for Kids thing that Tom Petty did. What's it called? Gosh darn it.
Not the School of Rock?
Yeah, no. It was like where you raise money for kids for music programs in school, and Tom Petty did that every year. So the Foo Fighters were there, Fleetwood Mac, and Tom Petty, and so they're doing this concert. And Stevie had just started rehearsals, and
who was playing for Stevie at the time?
Oh gosh, I can't believe, dude. So this is the problem with having a production company. And Kurt, come on, Kurt. Asian guy, long hair.
Oh, Pesquera.
Kurt Pesquera. Thank you.
Filipino guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he was playing drums and got pneumonia during rehearsal and like got really sick. So they needed a drummer like real quick. And Taylor was backstage with Stevie at the Tom Petty thing, Music Cares or whatever. And
at this time, you and Taylor were kind of hanging out?
Well, we've always been friends. Yeah.
But this was during that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was like 2005. That was like 2017.
Right.
So we, Taylor was back there with Stevie, and she's like, what do I do? And Taylor literally wrote my phone number down. He's like, call Drew. You already know him. You'll remember him when you see him. Like, he's your guy. And literally, Marty called me the next day, like, hey, Drew, this is Marty home. You know,
oh my God.
You got Taylor gave me a number. We need to, like, we're in rehearsals right now. Can I send you the stuff? Are you available? What do you want per week? And it was just like, and it was on. It was like, phew. And I went in there, and then I was just supposed to cover like the first 3 weeks of that leg until Kurt got better or whatever was happening, or Jimmy. I don't know. I never asked because it wasn't my business. Right. I was just in there to cover. Yeah. And we finished up that leg, and Stevie came in and it's like, you're not going anywhere. I'm going to keep you. I was like, sweet. So he's like,
now when you're not playing with Stevie, are you on retainers?
No.
Okay.
No. The only person that's ever done like a real retainer is Foo Fighters and Lisa Marie.
You think Abe Laboriel Jr. gets retainers from Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
The whole band?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that means if Paul decides to play, they have to drop whatever it is they're doing and play.
Yep.
Ah.
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, I can't say that for sure, but yeah. I mean, I've hung out with Abe, you know. So.
Nice guy.
He's amazing. Good guy. Solid, humble, sweetheart. Amazing. Like, there's so many good players, man. I don't know.
Okay. So. You know what's so nice? All these things are happening. You mentioned Hannah. So now family life, priorities. You left Joe. That was one of the things that came to mind. I mean, it was like highlighted in my head while you were talking about it. How important is being grounded with family in what you're doing?
I think it's everything. I mean, there's no better joy than hanging out with my kid and wife, you know. I mean, music can definitely, it's different though. There's different joys. Music can definitely, there's nothing like playing something and being connected to music and feeling that moment of just like things happening, and it just feels great and the song's inspiring. And I don't know if people obviously, well, no, I can't say that. There's millions and millions of people that listen to music and they get goosebumps. You know, that feeling is amazing. Having a kid and running around and having that kid say, I love you, and grab your cheeks, and, you know, like be in bed with them at night and, you know, just talking in the dark and I love you, daddy. And all, dude, you don't get that from music, you know,
right?
Music's great. But, so I'm glad that I'm around for those things. And I'm in a weird way, you know, it was great that, with COVID and having Stevie off for a couple of years, and before that, she was out with Fleetwood Mac. So, I mean, really, we did all of 2017. It was pretty much a world tour. 2018 we did some stuff, and then in the very beginning, then Fleetwood Mac went out for like 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, and then we did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Right, I think that was the very beginning of January of 2020 when she was inducted. We did that, and then COVID hit. And
how many times have you been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, twice with the Foo Fighters and with Stevie. But you know, it's weird. I was thinking the other day, it's like, man, Chicago's in, Joe's in with the Eagles.
Yes.
And so I was
Stevie,
like, wow, the four bands
Foo.
I've played with, you know, like, it's pretty crazy. And I'm sure Beck will be in there one day. I'm sure Jewel will be in there one day. So dude.
Now, when you played with Beck and Jewel, every time I go to Zanko, I always think of Beck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like getting those gigs, like Jewel, who was a crush. I had a huge crush on Jewel. I mean, when she started the first
Why wouldn't
album,
you?
right?
Yeah, come on.
So when you played for her, how was that?
So once again, Drew, drummers out of here. We need you like in a few days. Literally, I'm sending you the tapes. It was Jason Freeze again. Jason was playing keyboards. He said, call Drew. I got the gig, or I got the tapes, charted everything out. I have a video on my laptop of me playing with her at San Diego Sports Arena, the first show. And I have a music stand, and I'm playing like this. And they had a huge LED wall, and I'm just reading my charts, and I'm playing the songs. And so the first song of the set was Satellite. And so I worked with the band. She never showed up. We never rehearsed. Our first gig together with her was walking on stage live together. And so she came in the dressing room like a few minutes before the stage. Before we walked on, like, hey, nice to meet you. She's like, nice to meet you too. I'm sure it'll be great. I'm like, yeah, it'll be fun, whatever. It's great, you know? I go up on stage. So the band goes up. And I forget how Satellite goes, but it was like tempo's like 130 or something, you know. It's like maybe 140. It's like this little, and we're playing it. And I had a metronome, but I didn't leave it on. You just kind of started with it, and then you turn it off, and then start the song. We're playing, and so we're vamping for maybe like 30 seconds, and then she walks up on stage. The crowd, you're like,
how many people are we talking about?
10,000, maybe, you know. So we're playing, and we're going. And she's like, hasn't said a word to the crowd, and walks up to the microphone and goes, slow down, it's too fast. I'm just like, over her mic. I was like, and I'm playing, dude. I'm like, oh my gosh, did she just call me out? Like, and she turns around and like, I was just like, whoa, this is not happening. But in a way, dude, if I would have been younger, I would have been freaking out. I think I was confident enough to be like, sure. And Jason told me before the thing, like, he's like, watch out. She'll try and like get you worked up. And if you fall for it, she won't like you. If you just kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever, cool, and like go with it, you'll be her best friend. And luckily he gave me that information, because when she said that, I was like, all right, you're going to like kind of embarrass me right now. I want to see what was going to happen. And so I just laid back a little bit. She's like, cool. And so we keep going, do the show. Everything's fine. And on Who Will Save Your Soul, you can see on that video that I have on my laptop that I found on YouTube somewhere, we're playing the song, and she comes up in front of my drum set during the saxophone solo, and I'm playing, and she starts twirling around. And as she twirls around, she looks at me, she goes, I forget what she said. She said something like, you know, I love your playing. You're doing really good, or something. Like, she was really sweet.
Look at
you know,
that
I was like,
validation.
it was nice though. It was like to turn around. She's like, this is awesome. Like, so everything was good, and that was a moment. You see in the video where she turns around. I'm like, oh, we're gonna be friends. I'm doing good.
But you know what? Maybe the whole Joe Walsh experience.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
but all that. I mean, it all came to that.
Yeah,
I
right?
feel like everything in my life really happened exactly when it was supposed to happen. Because, as I said, if I would have been a younger kid and somebody would have done that, oh, man, I would have been so mad for you doing that to me. But I was older, and I was like, yeah, what? You want slower? Let's go slower. Sure. I do this with Joe all the time. You want it fast? We can pick it up. That doesn't embarrass me. I mean, really.
Serving the song, serving the music, whatever.
You
works.
are the artist. I'm here to support you. And that's why I work, honestly. I mean, and Tris told me that a long time ago when I was insecure about some drum fill, you know. He's like, you can always go to the hot dog stand. And I told him that. I told him that the other day. He's like, I said that? I'm like, yeah, you told me that as a kid. Because he's like, any of those fills, Vinnie Colaiuta, Dave Weckl, dude, the hardest fill in the world, if you spent 8 hours a day, in a week, you will have it. You will know how to play that fill. It doesn't matter how hard it is. I mean, really. But feel, groove, time, you will not learn that in a week. You will not learn that. That is not a fill. And that.
Thank you for saying that.
That is why I work with the people I work, because I play for the song. I'm here to support you. And it's not about my drum fill. It's not about, like, sure, if you give me that moment and I do something cool, great. But 95% of the time is that singer, and that's who the people I work with. I'm not a jazz group or anything. It's not, is supporting them, And with Stevie, I have learned that, like, she is out there. She is giving her all the pressure is pretty much on her or any singer who's standing there and commanding that. And for you to, like, hey, when that moment comes and they stop singing, you're going to lead them into something. Don't play something so tricky that she doesn't know she doesn't feel comfortable. Like, this is where the one is. Set it up so
give it to her.
So it's on a platter. She's like, oh, I'm going to hit the one. Like, yes. And that is the secret to working. Like, play for the song, and so Tris told me that at a young age at that party. Damn. I think maybe it was like a baked potato or something, but I just felt really insecure. Like, I didn't know all these fills. And he's like, dude, that can all be learned anytime. Groove, time, feel, study that, work it. That will keep you working. You know
what? Why I say this is good validation, not only for me but for Michael, because Michael's a groove player also. Because when I was 17, and I'll share, I seldom share this, but this is a good opportunity for me to piggyback on what you said. No, I was 17, been drumming for 2 years, and I wanted to be where those chops players were, right?
Yeah.
And so I was playing, I was jamming, and I was jamming with Filipino rock legends. And after that, we were having pizza, and one of the guitar players actually said, this Paco guy, he's going to go places. I like the way he plays the drums and all that stuff. And my head was just getting bigger and bigger. Right. All of that compliments. And then, like a switch, he goes, but you effing son of a bitch. If you keep playing the way you're playing, this will be the end of your career. And so I was like, everybody just kept quiet in the room, and all eyes were on me, but in a negative way. And he goes, if this was a basketball game, I was in the paint, no one's guarding me, I was asking for the ball so I can do a simple layup, and all you did was dribble the ball all night long. Listen.
Wow.
Like what Joe told.
Yeah.
Same thing he said to me. Listen.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm playing, give me space.
Yeah. Very true. And it's it's funny, as the guitar player, like, that was one thing Joe would say about singing and guitar playing. And that he loved they would talk about Keith Moon, how Keith Moon would do it, even though Keith Moon played fills everywhere, but it was amazing how Keith could play fills on top of everything but never really stepped on anybody.
Yes.
That's
I think
the
talent.
Only Keith can really do that in that moment with the Who. But what Joe would say would be like, so if I'm singing and I stop, you play the fill. And when I start singing, you stop the fill.
Yes.
And when I'm playing guitar, if I take a break, you play a fill, and then don't do it over the top of me. And then I would say, but Joe, your phrase ends like on the and a 4 and then starts on beat 3. He's like, yeah, so play the fill on beat 1 and 2. I'm like, but the downbeat's 1. He's like, figure it out, dude. Figure it out. And he's like, it might be cool. And it was such a different, because he didn't think about drums landing on 1.
He was thinking about conversation.
He's like, no, play on 1, 2, and then come in on 3. Like, what's like? And so he really did force me to do that. And when we recorded together, he would always say, I don't want anything more than an 8th note. Ooh. And I'd be like, and the beat and the tempo's like at literally like 78.
Ah!
And you're like, you want me to record a song with no more than an eighth note for a fill? And I did it, dude. And it was very strange. But it was it was very difficult. I don't know. But it's a good thing to explore. You know, it doesn't have to be all that. And listening to, listening to the guys today on the way over, like Tommy Taylor on the Christopher Cross album. I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, that perfection. You know, I mean, really, he sounds so good on that record. So anyways.
What drives sailing? Is it the guitar or the keyboard? Keyboard, right?
Yeah, it's keyboard and guitar.
And the drums very simple.
Yeah, and then Lenny's playing percussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has that little woodblock part. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I talked to Lenny the other day, and I said, man, I called him. I'm like, I'm just listening to Christopher Cross, and your parts are just the best. And he's like, that was one of my favorite albums I ever did.
Yeah.
Was that album, that first record. It won all the Grammys.
Speaking of Lenny played for Toto.
Yeah, he played for everybody. Michael Jackson,
right?
you name
Michael Jackson, yeah.
Probably the most recorded session percussionist ever, I would say.
Did you ever get to meet Jeff Porcaro?
I did not, and he was around because I went to music school in 91 and they were all, the Baked Potato was a big scene at that point. So I'd go down and see Lukather.
Yeah.
And I think Jeff was probably down there, but I never met him. And Carlos Vega. I mean, those are two of those guys. And when Carlos passed away, I was like, oh, man. It's weird. I don't know.
Who played on Rio Funk? Was it Carlos Vega on Rio Funk? Rio Funk is Lira Tenor, right? No.
They played like live, right? The live version was
Carlos Vega. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
GRP, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Vega, man. Carlos was like,
you still go to the Baked Potato?
Yeah. I haven't been there in a while, and
we should go.
Dude.
Monday nights.
And I tried to reach out to like somebody who knew Vinny. I'm like, can somebody like post when Vinny's playing, actually?
Right.
Because I would like to take like Dave Grohl or somebody to see him, because I think Dave would freak out on that, I think.
They haven't met, you think?
They probably know but I don't know if you've ever seen him live in his element when he's like in that thing that he does like in the jazz clubs and playing like that fusion and stuff. It's eye-opening.
You do know that Vinnie Colaiuta actually played on a Megadeth album, right?
Oh, yeah. No, he can play anything, dude.
Right?
Vinny is probably, in my opinion, like the best drummer in the world, just in terms of like can do anything, And I wasn't a big fan of Vinny's all the way through until he got the gig with Sting, man.
Yeah.
And then Sting forced him to play 2 and 4.
Yes.
And then like he started to become, for me personally, was just like more of a groove drummer. And then his time just got better and better and better. And then when he came out with that solo album, and I told him this, and he says in the liner notes, he's like, thanks to Jeff for defining it. I was like, and I cried. Like I literally, the day I wrote, I just started crying because it was the ultimate chops guy in the world. I mean, Vinny's considered like he can play anything. Black Page, you just name like Frank Zappa, all this stuff. Vinnie Colaiuta's
giving homage to
Hey, giving to the guy, the ultimate non-chop guy. He's saying thanks for defining it. Like thanks to Jeff for defining it, and that, I get emotional. That to me is what it's all about.
Yeah,
And I told Vinny that. When I saw we did a thing together a long time ago, and I just said, hey, dude, as a guy who's a simple drummer, I just want to say thank you for putting that in there, because it gave like so much, not hope, but whatever, just it really made me feel like, hey, I'm going down the right path, And he was a sweetheart, man. Anyways, that was a cool moment.
Out of curiosity, how does someone like you, and you've got a resume and credentials to back who you are up, okay? But how does someone like you go side by side with someone like Vinnie Colaiuta? What's the mindset?
Stay out of the way.
Seriously, right?
No, yeah, there's nothing. I mean, he's standing on stage watching me play, and it's just like, this is painful. I am insecure in those moments. but I just try and do what I do best. I'm not going to like, there's nothing I'm going to do that's going to make him be like, whoa, what'd you just do? Like Vinnie can do it all. So, I mean, but for me, I can say, you know what, man, I do know my groove is strong and I know it feels great. And I'm in your lane with you on that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to play musically. And if it's just Pat Boone, Debbie Boone 4 times for the song, I'm playing
Pat
that.
Boone, Debbie Boone.
Yeah. You know? So that's it. Come on. And I think that for me, that's all I do, you know? And I think that's why, once again, I keep working and I don't try and stray from that too much, you know? Because I've learned, for one, I'm not really that interested in the other stuff. Even when I was in school, when I tried to force myself to be like Dave Weckl and Vinnie, I'm like, I don't want to, this is boring to me, like trying to figure out all this stuff and like you learn it and it's cool and it's nice to have and it's cool to impress people with. But at the end of the day,
where do you use it?
I'm playing gypsy. I'm like, it better feel great. Stevie better be dancing, you know? Yeah. That will get you fired. Waddy would literally fire me. Yeah. That'd be bad. So.
Okay. Now, Drew Hester has to take care of Drew Hester because you can't be relying on all these big acts because they're taking care of themselves at the end of the day.
Okay.
Okay. Your vest. Let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Company.
What made you? There you go. Can we see it? There you go. MIP. Yeah.
Modern Illumination Productions. A long name. My wife and the other guy named it. I'm like, let's not name it that because Modern Illumination is just such a long word. But anyways, yeah, it's a production company. My wife and this other guy started in 2012, and I was the third guy in. So put up the money, kind of be the good credit guy.
You're right.
So that was that. So that's what I do now on the side, kind of, but whatever. But full time, just with there's, you know, Stevie's been down for a while. So, as I say, I play with Jonathan at church some, play around, little session work here and there. But yeah.
But the business part,
yeah.
Was that a natural process, do you think?
No.
Ooh.
Well, here's the weird thing. So when I was a kid, I loved audio. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I mixed some stuff with Taylor and, you know, I love audio engineering, so I love being in recording studios. Big time fan. So that always interested me. And then I love lighting. So when I was in high school, even junior high, I'd always be in the theater doing lights, focusing lights, do all the plays, rewiring lighting consoles. So it's really weird. I have this like tech side of me and artistic side that.
When you were on tour, would you see what the LD was doing?
Oh, dude, I'll go out and talk to the guys. Opening band, like, and our lighting designer, Chris Lose, who was with Stevie. So yeah, oh, for sure. I'm talking with audio engineers. I'm talking with lighting guys. Like, I'm not a dressing room meeting somebody. No, I'm like, I want to be all the crew guys. And I love it. And I just want to learn about it more and be a better person and company for it. It's competitive being in LA, and I enjoy the process of growing the company. Like that challenge of like, hey, I want to not bigger necessarily, even though sure, yeah, I want
quality.
Yeah, quality. I want to be like, man, that company,
right.
They're badass, man. Like, great stuff. Their guys are good. The gear's nice. So I like that challenge, and I like it. And I just kind of I wanted to get into it because I felt like there's only so many years.
Yeah.
These artists that I work with, and I've always been the youngest in the band, you know, most of the time, besides the Foo Fighters and Jewel and Beck and stuff. But most of the artists I've worked with are, you know, Chicago, Stevie, Joe. They're older than I am. So I just felt like, hey, they're in their 70s. I'm 52. I need something else to do because it, you know, I don't see her going past 80, you know, 78 maybe. Stevie said maybe. I mean, Mick did it pretty well.
Yeah.
But we'll see how long she goes. But I will finish my career with her and keep going and then, you know, have the company and whatever. And at that time, I'll be 60. And, you know, for me, I didn't want to be a freelance drummer
Right.
at 60.
I mean,
You know?
having to put the fate of your family in someone else's hands.
Yeah, it's tough. And I will say, like, for me, I was like, no, I want to have a little more control of that, especially having a daughter. If I was single, great, dude. Let's do it. I'm good. I'll just be hanging out at studios right now. I could teach some drum lessons, make it work.
So you're either working or with the family.
Yeah, pretty much right now. That's about it.
Now, with regard to MIP, are you guys just catering to the big acts or even the up and comings?
No, up and comings. We're not big enough to cater to the big acts yet. I mean, I hope we are one day.
And the reason why I ask, because it would be nice to have people like you who are really from the mainstream industry. This is more the way I see your company. It's like you have the credentials to actually make an up and coming band look and feel big.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, we did Megan Thee Stallion. She's pretty huge. We did the festival, whatever, the I Am Beautiful festival, or the Beautiful Day festival, one out in Vegas, and we did Bottle Rock. So, I mean, we do some bigger shows, but we don't get those clients just, well, I can't say, I guess we got her. So, whatever. We do get some of those clients, but right now our focus is mostly like medium-sized, smaller tours, and mostly in corporate and stuff like that. You know, we got a ton of gigs coming up for Super Bowl, and
so what do you guys do? Live events, post productions.
Yeah, and we mostly do live events, like corporate events, experiential stuff, tours. That's pretty much it. So,
and what do you do?
So we do it all. So we're pretty much turnkey. So it's like from on the lighting, you say, I want to have this, I want to do this big giant corporate event, whatever.
With a video wall, with a LED wall.
This and moving lights,
Yeah.
and I want smoke to come out, and like we can do it all. So we do the labor, we design it for you, we put it together. We can do that. You can rent gear from us. You can do. There's a million things. And when I took over the company, so there's the guy Jonathan, who did it for 2 years, and then he left, and then I took over. And once I took over, we were kind of more like decor lighting, like pretty like balloon lights. And I was like, no, I want like rock tour moving lights, and I want audio. So we went heavily in that direction once I took over, and that's what we are now. So we do a lot, and we work with churches, a decent amount of churches, which is new for us. Yeah, we just started last year kind of working with churches, and it's been great, man. I love it because I know a lot of people in that world, and I'm comfortable there, and I think, they trust me, and because I think churches can be a little bit taken advantage of, especially bigger churches with AV companies. Like, well, hey, man, you got the money here. Here it is. Like, wow. So I just don't believe that. So whatever. Anyways, but
are you like, okay, with this focus on MIP, do you think that you'll do more of this, or if Stevie calls?
Oh no, Stevie, I'm gone. I'm with her. So I will.
What's the conversation like between you and your wife?
She knows. She's cool. I mean, the thing is, the company's big enough. We have 10 employees that I don't really need to, I don't have to be there, but so many people see me still as the face of the company. Like, is Drew coming down, or is he going to be here? Like, and I'm like, look, at this point, Ramel or Corey or any of the guys I have here, they know more about what you want than I do. You're just used to seeing me because it was a one-man show forever. So, like, this guy can actually, like, rig that and program it and design it. Like, I can just kind of, like, get you there, but at the end of the day, he's going to do it. So I'm trying to get it to where they understand that. And all of our stuff is cloud-based, so it makes it super easy if I'm on the road.
Yeah.
It just, here I can do something real quick, and literally the shop is seeing it in LA, shop's prepping a tour or whatever, it's literally that quick.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. The cloud-based thing changed all that in terms of travel, and being COVID now, so many people work from home anyways, but we're still at the office. We're staying busy, so I'm very blessed, and I like it. But no, when Stevie calls, I'll be with Stevie, because
is your mom and dad still around?
My mom lives in Laguna, is remarried, and my dad lives in New Orleans.
What did they say about you?
Oh, I don't know. I'm so proud of him.
Seriously?
I don't know. They come to my shows. My dad, when I was in New Orleans, he came with his partner, and they came to the show and they loved it. And they've seen me with like Chicago and Stevie Nicks, and it's probably more up their alley too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Wow,
Yeah,
man, that's cool. My son's playing all these songs I grew up with.
Yes.
You know, so I'm sure they enjoy it. You know, I don't know.
When you started playing drums, were you encouraged or discouraged by your parents?
Encouraged, but warned.
Warned.
So my parents were divorced pretty early, so it was mostly my mom. And my mom's like, look, you can go for it, but it is hard, and I will not support you forever. So I will get you 1 year of schooling, and I'll get you enough money. And we were poor, dude. I don't know how my mom pulled it off.
God bless her.
But it's for real. She said we sat down. We came up with like a budget per month, how much my rent would be, what gas would be back and forth to school, how many miles it was, and then if I need some food money and, you know, groceries, and, you know, you're going to need to eat out here and there. And we like got it down to the penny. And she gave me a monthly salary or monthly thing every month so I could go to school and not have a job. Because a lot of the other kids going to the music school at the time at Dick Grove School of Music, they worked at night.
So they couldn't wood shed.
So they couldn't shed. Dude, all I did was shed. I get there like at 7 a.m, leave like at midnight, and all day just playing. It's like, oh, it was the best year of my life in terms of growth. I never grew more than in that year.
How about your brother? What did he do?
He's a pilot for United Airlines. His big old
My cousin's a pilot for United Airlines.
Yeah. So he had the San Francisco to Beijing route forever, and but now he's
A38, the new one.
He flew 747s, but now he wants to kind of like be home more, and so his kids are grown, but he's like kind of done traveling that much, so he just flies domestically.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you were to advise someone who's up and coming and someone who thinks they can conquer the world, because you did it covertly. You've been around the world. Yes. You've been with more artists than any of us in this room can probably dream of being with. You're blessed with a family. Even Hannah's birth was a blessing.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, what advice can you give people who are doubting themselves, especially in this environment we're in?
I mean, there's many times I doubted myself, but I think I never gave up hope, you know. There was a quote in a book from Hal Blaine that said, there are no winners, just losers that quit too soon. And there are no losers, just winners that quit too soon. So I was like, don't give up, man, because you don't know. You might be so fed up with like, man, I've been grinding at this. I play clubs. I play all this stuff. I'm not getting the auditions. I quit. You know, I'm going to go get a job. I just can't do the grind anymore, you know? And you don't know that, hey, Jason Freeze, and it might not be an audition. All my gigs that I've gotten pretty much have been from my friends being on the gig and them recommending me in the moment and then them calling me. So that's what happened. And I think you can't see that happening when you're in that moment feeling discouraged. You feel like, man, I'm tired of the grind. And so I really would say that, you know, there are no losers, just winners that quit too soon. And I would just keep going. I'm like, just go. I was homeless, dude. I was like, now granted, I was doing drugs and alcohol, and that was a stupid thing. And I didn't get a professional gig till I got sober. So lesson there, you know,
Sobriety,
maybe I would have had a gig 5 years before that.
Right.
You know, maybe I wasted a lot of money on that stuff, you know, just partying as a kid. But I always believed where I was supposed to be, where I was at. And I thank God for getting me out of that rut, you know? But it sounds so cliche, you know, don't give up. But it's true. And it's hard to get out of yourself and looking at that despair, and to try and see things a little bit outside of that box of how bad it is, you know, and try and, hey, there's more going on around me than just me, you know, like, hey, my friend he's got a good gig, and my friend Larry or Susie or whoever it is, they're working and think like, maybe I'll get that call. Maybe they'll call me. And you know what? Maybe I should reach out to them and say, hey, you want to go get lunch? And what my friend told me one time, he's like, Victor and Drizzo, like amazing drummer, works all the time. He said, if I were you, dude, I wouldn't call guys and say, hey, man, are you hearing any gigs available? People don't want to hear that.
No.
You know? Now, if you call a guy and say, hey, man, you want to get a cup of coffee? Let's go
There
talk.
you go. That's all you
And
need.
just talk.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, you don't need to say that you're looking for work. They know you're home. You're having coffee. Guess what you're not doing? You're not touring or you're not playing. They know.
They know.
And so if you just have a good time, don't bring up work. Don't bring up your woe was me thing and just say, hey, man, great to see you. Yeah, great. Awesome. Hey, man, see you soon. I've gotten calls. I've gotten 2 gigs from Victor just saying, like, call this guy because, hey, maybe we just talked and I'm on his radar. I think that's something people need to do is just reach out. Don't say, I'm out of work. You got anything? You're out of work. I don't want to hear you're out of work. You know, I want to hear, hey, bro, you want to get some coffee or let's get lunch, whatever it is. Or how are you? Leave it at that. You're on their radar. Let them call you back and keep going with that because, dude, it took me forever. I didn't get my first pro gig till almost I was 28. I'd been doing it for 10 years. 10 years of clubs, 5-6 nights a week, you know, like it never ended. But I loved what I do.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I love what I do. And I loved it so much that I was willing to live in my car for it. And I loved it so much that still to me wasn't really an issue, you know, and I would have kept doing that until I made it. So, and I don't know where everybody's low is. You know, your low can be different. Like people are like, I ain't living in a car, dude, for this. Well, okay. Dave Grohl, one time we did a show and a woman came back and Dave was backstage and we just finished playing and she's like, oh, my son's a drummer and a songwriter too, you know, but how do I get him to make money? I mean, look what you've done. He's like, and Dave looked at her and said, I can't give you any advice. I have no advice for you. I'm so sorry. She's like, what do you mean? Look what she's like. He goes, you don't understand. I was sleeping on a couch and I would still be sleeping on a couch, still playing drums and still writing songs today without any of this because I love what I do. Love. And I think that's a difference between people sometimes that do make it. Hey, do you love what you do? Because, dude, I can see drums and like get them. I'm pretty emotional, but I mean, there's times I've been playing drums and started crying, just like,
yeah,
man, I am thankful and like, wow,
Amen.
or the song is moving me.
Yes.
And like, man, this is crazy. And
yes.
like, so you got to love it. And that will pull you through all those slow times because, you know, I think that's, and you can come out of it. And then I think too, if you get those jobs, have thick skin, be an easygoing guy, stay humble. Like, don't get involved in the politics of all the crap that bands get involved with. People saying rude things like, hey, you're a nobody or whatever it is, because you get tied up in that too much. You're losing focus on, you know, what that is. Yeah. And
why you were even there.
Right.
Yeah.
Why you're there. And you're talented and you're supposed to be there. You know, you're a badass. You're here because you are good enough to do it. And there's a million other guys in line waiting for that. You know what I'm saying? We all know that, like, dude, anybody can go up on stage and do what I do, you know?
But it's you.
It is me.
Yeah.
But it's me because guess what? I'm easygoing. I don't put any weird pressure on Stevie. I don't, you know, like act like a jerk. Be happy. I'm happy. I'm glad I'm there, you know? And
so there's gratefulness.
Gratefulness and perform your art, man. Like play great. You know, you will get your opportunity, and make sure when you get your opportunity, you're prepared, you know? And,
so preparedness, meeting opportunity, you're the perfect example of that.
Right. Well, there's some saying that goes like that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there is no...
The definition of luck?
Yeah, there's no luck. It's blah, blah, blah.
It's preparedness, meeting opportunity.
Right. Lesson learned, kids.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
But,
ladies and gentlemen, Drew Hester!
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
You are a blessing.
Thank you, buddy. Now who's this?
Right?
Who is this?
I don't know. This is just
That was cool.
a music. You know what?